Welcome to Yes Also. I'm Suzi Barrett, and my guest today is none other than Chad Damiani. Chad is, of course, a star in the international clown community, but he also has deep roots in improv. You'll hear all about his comedy journey in here, but what's more important is we really get deep about the differences and overlaps between clown and improv, and we both bring some challenges and counterpoints to the table. I love this conversation. I love philosophizing about our responsibilities to audiences and what our goals are as performers and comedians, and the different ways we can go about accomplishing those goals. If you love this dorky stuff as much as I do, then you must not miss the part 2 of this episode. Go to yesalso.supercast.com and subscribe. And no hard feelings if you end up canceling it, but first enjoy the extra hour of Chad and the 100 hours of bonus content. For more Chad, definitely check out his podcast, Stand Up and Clown, and check out pics of his comedy journey over at Yes Also Pod on Instagram. Okay, here's Mr. Damiani.
This is a fan doing your show. I'm very excited. Okay.
And this is a fan interviewing a fan of the show.
So the person who runs the show is a fan of the guest who is a huge fan of the show.
That's right. It's an infinite, it's barbershop mirrors.
Okay. Forever.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
We have so much ground to cover.
I know.
I have 1 million subscriber questions for you and also 1 million of my own questions as a Chad subscriber.
Okay. And then also, and it's fine if it is, how many of those subscriber questions are actually accusations?
Oh, yeah. They all end in periods and exclamation points. Does that mean they're not questions?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I'm used to.
I missed punctuation day in school, so I get a little confused.
One day.
One day.
One exhausting day.
That's right. Let's start with, let's start from the beginning of your comedy journey. Yeah, I primarily know you as someone who's huge in the clowning world. You're also an improviser. You do a lot of improvised clown. We did an improvised clown show together. I had so much fun.
You were great, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I was terrified. It's like the first show I've done in a long time where I was genuinely scared.
And we should mention it's silent.
Yes.
So we have a really talented musician with us, but
yes.
I guess we can make noises. And did we make any noises, or were we truly honoring the form?
I think, well, when you say it that way, now I don't want to admit that I made a noise. Were we honoring the sanctity of what we had agreed to
this
sacredly?
Agreement.
Yeah. I think there were maybe a couple of noises, but
Didn't you at one point cough and go, Baltimore?
Yeah. I was trying to get you to do that Baltimore scene that I had written. No, it was so fun. And it's similar to Silent Soundtrack. It's like the music elicits emotional, it kind of guides you emotionally, and it kind of holds the bottom of the show in a way that makes it always feel there's never a scary silence. And then when there is silence, when the music drops out, it's very powerful. And I felt very lost in it in a way that I haven't since theater school. I disappeared into the show.
Well, a couple things are happening there. When I think about music, I always call it the invisible thread, because what it does immediately is we're all on the same vibe, right? Beyond just you and I being inspired by it, the audience feels what we feel in this other way, right? So beautiful music, dramatic music comes in. They're activated the same way we're activated. So it's kind of like cheating a little bit. And yes, to me, why it's easier in some ways is because the audience now has to focus completely on us, right? And we have to really pay attention to everything that's happening because, if you're in a scene and you can talk, you could be doing object work, you're just listening.
Yeah.
But here, it's like we have to watch, we have to see every expression. And just to be so activated, you don't have time to sort of go back into your brain and plan or plot. You have to just react constantly. And it's such a pleasure.
Yes.
Yeah, you're like, oh, all I have to do is be here.
It simplifies everything. And I noticed that like without the dialogue, it puts you in maybe a little bit more of a primal place. With dialogue, we have all of these assumptions and kind of shorthands that we've maybe agreed upon with ourselves, like what it means that someone's like, ugh, I'm home, and you're like, oh, we're in a shitty relationship, or they had a bad day at work, or you start writing things, or you start shortcutting to things that feel like other scenes you've done. Whereas in the show with you, from the jump, nothing felt like any scene I had ever done. We're like crawling through the audience,
Yeah.
and finding bits with a mic stand, and it's all just simplified and boiled down.
And even someone at your level where you can make those calculations really fast, you still have to leave the moment, even though you're really good at it. And then, of course, if you're just starting out, sometimes you don't know how to get back.
What do you mean you have to leave the moment? I agreed so readily and then
You
was
did.
like, wait, and I don't.
And then you mouthed liar.
Liar, Baltimore.
So when you're playing and there's, like you said, dialogue, any time you take to even sort of in your mind frame, you're like, right, I'm in a relationship, it's bad. And then they said this earlier, and like you can't exist there and in the present moment. So you find ways to trick the audience, right? You grab a object work dish rag, or you turn around or grab a chair. Like you steal these moments, and the audience doesn't know. But as a performer, you do have to leave what's happening.
Yep.
And by the way, it's just brief, but if you can, as best you can, stay completely engaged in the action and then the reaction and the audience and how they're reacting, like, I just feel like it sucks them in more.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, I don't have permission to do that from the audience because this performer is not going to give me a second to step away. And I think you saw it, like what also happens is the silence creates a tension that the audience feels like it has to break. So a lot of times we get reactions that are laughter, but other reactions because they're suffering in a joyful way. They're suffering a little bit. So they're like, oh boy, like they're, ooh, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, and what we talk a lot about in clown is we're always plotting to make the audience a collaborator. Not necessarily a scene partner, but just empowering them and then also kind of putting it on them to help push the show past the finish line. Like we can't get there without them. And so the more they invest, then the more they actually want to see the show succeed.
What is the finish line for you?
To me, the finish line of any good clown show is a moment where it's hard to distinguish where the show is happening. Like the audience feels like they're as much a part of the show as the performers. And like it's this beautiful moment of chaos. And it doesn't have to be chaos in the sense of like Lord of the Flies.
Right.
But, I have a show called Stand Up and Clown that I do. And we have this regular thing that we're pretending to do a pirate show. But then everything is different. But for the last moment, I dress the whole cast as pirates. And then I have a little clown troupe of pirates. And we bring them all out. And I tell them, we're going to take a picture as if this is the end of the production and it has been the greatest show you've ever seen. And so these pictures will go out, and this is our collective secret that actually another show happened. And you can talk to people about seeing the best show you've ever seen at the Elysian. But to do that, the audience has to like rise to their feet and cheer wildly. And in that moment, it's like, well, what is the show?
Right.
Like, is it what's happening on stage? Is it the contribution of the audience? That's kind of what I'm always chasing. And I do think in our show, I think the audience at some point is just playing with us.
Yeah.
And like, if we can get there, that's a success. Though I will say we exchanged multiple emails talking about the show. And what did we graded it a B, a high B?
You graded it a high B.
What did you think?
I didn't know. I asked you how you thought it went because I have no experience in that world.
But what did you feel, Suzi?
I had a blast.
Right.
I was scared in a good way. I hoped afterwards that I delivered in a way that felt satisfying to you and to the audience, and that like kind of met the mark. It was like, it was really going in blind, because it's like having to write an essay, but you didn't read the book or something,
right.
It's like, I can talk about these themes, like, and you gave me a nice primer beforehand, like something you
kind
said.
Of a never-ending primer. That's something I'm working on, because you came and you had like brave energy, but also I could feel that you were like, oh, I'm doing something relatively new or something I haven't done in a while. And then I can't help but keep adding primer notes. So I'm like, it's just these 3 things. And then we'll stretch a little bit. And I'll be like, one other thing you might consider. Don't do this.
Right.
And then I'm like, stop doing that.
Was that part of the show? Was that?
Who's to say it wasn't?
Right.
There was someone in the lobby watching that.
Yeah, right. Something you said during that like little talk before the show that I found really interesting was you said that the show would always be a triangle, like me, you, and the audience, and that at any moment we're like checking in with each other, but also pinging off of like checking in with the audience and what they're. It's like we have a relationship on stage in whatever moment we're exploring. And then in that moment, we also have a relationship with the audience. And at times, like, they will be our adversary, and at times they will be our cheerleader. And so that you're always looking to kind of exploit their reactions or fold them into the bit or the pattern that's happening. I thought that was fascinating.
I really think that, in general, if you have a live audience and you haven't planned anything, how can we take advantage of all this energy that's sitting right in front of us? And so, with the triangulation, let's just say I put my hand on your shoulder and you act like nervous, like, oh, the boss is here. And you look at them to let them know that. And then I look at them to see how they feel about it. Like maybe the answer to the equation there is I pull back because the audience disapproves of me being like this high status bully. Mm-hmm. And in that, now it's a different game, right? Because we could have just played that game where it was like, listen, and every time it's like, oh, I'm going to get in trouble, and you're not in trouble. And we could have had a lot of fun with it. But if the game becomes the audience is your protector, mm-hmm. or the game becomes that the audience chooses to, like, they want you to be the boss, mm-hmm. right? So that when you put your hand on my shoulder, they cheer. And then you and I, submitting to the will of the audience, do a status shift. It's just a more complex game.
Right.
And what's more important is, like, because all the ideas can be dumb. It's just like improv.
Yeah.
Like, the ideas can be terrible if we're committed to them. But how many ideas can we have that when these games are reintroduced, or these patterns, that the audience feels like, oh, it's my time to play again, mm-hmm. right? Like, oh, I'm part of this and I'm going to be guiding the show. We can push against it. I can decide that I don't want to listen to them anymore, and then they can double down and I can fold. Or maybe they think it's funny that now I'm getting mad that they're offering so many contributions to the show. But what's most important is they feel that if they weren't there, this game could not be played.
Yeah. Yeah, they are the third character,
right?
As
They're in
a
the
collective,
scene. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Man, there's so much I want to talk about, and I see like forks in the road here of like where we can go. Do you have an instinct of where you want to go right now, or should I lead?
I will answer your first question.
Yes.
Ryan, stop coughing. No, that's a game we talked about earlier.
I might include it in the edit just so people are in on it.
They
as
understand
the audience.
We have this. I was just going to say that I had this journey with comedy where I kind of was always gravitating towards clown work, but didn't understand that that's what my interest was. I thought it was just comedy. And obviously they fold into each other. But when I was looking back, I was thinking about coming on the podcast and like talking about my origin story. And I just started to realize, even in like thinking about it, that like, oh, everything I liked like had this clown element. Like I was a huge professional wrestling fan, and I eventually worked in professional wrestling.
You did?
Yeah.
What did you do?
I was an announcer.
Whoa.
Which I consider my first job in clown/improv.
Yeah.
Because, we would just go out there, and the company I worked for, they were old school. So they wouldn't tell the announcers, or at least they wouldn't tell announcers at my level what was going to happen because they wanted genuine reactions. Later, in the last few years I worked there, we would get a full script, which I did not prefer.
Yeah, it's so much better the other way.
Although we missed a bunch of stuff. It should be said that they weren't great storytellers. So we're like, I think he's mad. But what I learned from that, wrestling in general to me is the best sort of clown adjacent entertainment. And I don't mean best in quality. I mean success. Like, you have these, two people essentially like in their underwear on a little square of canvas. You got 50,000 people around them and they're pretend fighting and people go crazy and they do everything in their power to trick the audience into thinking it's important. Music and, they have these amazing, WWE has some of the best production in terms of packages. They have these like probably millions of dollars of like those like LED screens and like, you know what I mean? Like they blow the place up and it's just a guy walks out.
Right.
In his tights,
Right.
And so like when you think about how invested they are in the audience booing and cheering and buying into the story, which plays out in foolishness. It's just like, I pretended to punch you. Like I'm twisting your arm.
Right.
Like it's not real.
I'm vamping to the audience until you sneak up behind me and hit me with a chair you weren't supposed to take.
And the audience
from
is trying to tell me, right?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
But as an announcer, the thing that I was able to take away just in my own tool set, I had to treat everything like it was the best. I had to, like, no matter how dumb it was. And there were times where we had guys with like 6 months experience, but they had great looks, had no business being in the ring. And you would have to talk about what you were seeing as if it was blowing your mind.
You're selling the product.
Sell it.
Yeah.
I have to sell it. And as the product got worse and worse, because it did, like, you just go into this sort of really absurd space of like trying to give gravitas to things. Like there was a match that we had where there was a wrestler named Marcus Bagwell and they hung up his mother, Judy Bagwell, on a little cage and it was called Judy Bagwell on a pole match. And like the winner was the person who released his mother from the cage. And yeah, like in that, like my job, even though I could acknowledge it was fun, my job was to be like, this actually really matters.
Right.
This
Pretending
matters.
like this woman really was like abducted. And
yeah, like it matters. And she's, and boy, if Marcus doesn't free his mom, like these are the ramifications. Like I had to, it still has to have stakes. It can't just be silly. And so,
man, there's a meta career game here where you're like clown Joe Rogan. Like
it's very possible,
like you need to start like a parody Joe Rogan podcast. Like your whole life could be like a clown parallel track,
So the company I worked for, World Championship Wrestling, they had such an epic fall. There's multiple books on it. Like they went from, I think, a year where they were $30 million in the black to the next year being about the same in the red.
Yikes.
Like just an
too many tights. Too many cages.
I did see a couple really funny arguments about tights. And like one time I saw two guys argue because one guy wore long purple tights and then another guy came in short purple tights. And like the basis of the argument was the color was more important than the cut.
Okay.
Right. And it was like so passionate. It's like, it's still it's my color. And it's like, yeah, but these are long pants.
But it's short. Now you're gay. Yeah, but if they're long, you're straight.
Right. This is two very different people. They would never intersect.
Right.
But if that hadn't happened, I do feel like if like we had somehow managed to keep the company alive, it would have been an impossible job to leave at that juncture in my life because I was really young and it felt like I'd hit the lottery. Like I was in my 20s. I was on TV. Everyone seemed very impressed with this job. Yeah, like I was like,
and making money to watch something you already loved.
Making more money a couple years than a few years in the last 10 years. Just like really partly why we closed. Everyone was like, we were just all being paid too much and
driving Rolls Royces and
we there was one time where we would be on the road and also you could manipulate the system. Like for instance, if you called travel 3 days before and said, oh, they need me to do a project, can you change my flight? They would buy you a full price fare in the change. And then you would just go in and pay like $50 and get upgraded to first class.
Dang.
This is the moment I was like, oh, this is probably not good. I was, we were all at a show and our boss, Mike Weber, came in and he said, I need a pen. And we're like, I don't have pens. And he just melted down and he said, he goes, 8 people in here, 8 rental cars, but no pens. And I was like, oh, he's right. Like, it was that kind of like, just like we were spending other people's money. But yeah, like I do think often so much of the best stuff in my life was a product of catastrophic failure, like things just going away and me having to pivot and start over. So yeah, no, in terms of like, that was my first improv clown job, was that. And then I had a long stretch where I wasn't really performing much at all, and I was screenwriting. And
where were you at this chapter of your life?
For wrestling, I lived in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And then when that went away, I realized like I tried to work out of New York. I got hired for something called Thunderbox.
Great
which
name.
is like, which by the way, even then we were like, oh, is this what we're calling it? And it was essentially a boxing promotion that wanted us to write little interstitials with pro wrestling based on the boxing. But we had to film them before the matches took place because just for budgetary reasons. So we were like, we should film them after because then we can like reverse engineer the stories that fit. They're like, just do stuff that like everything was wrong.
Just make it evergreen. Just say generic statements like that was cool.
Yeah. There's a couple like just, I'm not in it. I was just writing it. But just like when you watch it, you're like, oh my God, this is like surreally bad.
Yeah.
The best thing that happened with that job was it had been sold to Fox Sports when we started working on it. We were about 3 months in. And then Fox Sports backed out, so they sold it to BET. And now we had 2 white writers. So they brought in 2 black writers, Tony and Lori, who they were great. But they didn't want to pay them to be full writers. So they weren't allowed to type it all. But I mean, this is a very different time. This is 2002. So then Jamie and I, the writers, would go through the script with them. And then they would tell us how to say it for BET. I mean, so horrifying. And so we're like, okay, we'll retranslate the scripts. And like, again, at this point, I'm in this space of desperation because I've lost my dream job. And I'm like, I guess I've never worked in TV. Like, I would say even by 2002 standards, this is horrifying. And there came a day where we had to read the scripts. And they rented this like really ornate ballroom type, like boardroom, not ballroom. And all the execs were going to come. And Tony had been fired a week earlier they caught him falling asleep.
They caught him typing.
They caught him. They're like, you have all this chafing on your fingertips. So the plan was Lori was going to read the scripts. And we find out the morning of the reading that Lori is actually this very high up advertising executive who dreamed of being a writer, like making probably like mid 6 figures. And her boss had somehow found out she was sneaking away to do this other thing. And she's like, I can't come. So now Jamie and I, by the way, this is how karma should work. Jamie and I have to read the scripts that we have translated for BET. And we sit down and we're both like, oh, this is terrible. We don't like, how do we do it? And we're like, we'll just do it. And I go into a monologue as one of the characters who was a pimp. Again, I'm not making any excuse. I'm very embarrassed by this. And I really commit to it. And then Jamie goes and he does a totally dead read. He's just like, slow your roll. I remember, like, literally that's the line. Slow your roll, he said. And I'm like, now I'm committed to this committed read. And so we did this for 20 minutes. Me not backing down, him not backing down. And we're like, because we're just like, I didn't want to look like I made a mistake. And And we took a break and then we sort of went to the bathroom and we both were washing our hands and the tension was so, and we both looked at each other and at the same time we're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like we said at the same time and we laughed. Like it was like, right, we're like, okay, we can fix this. But it was like I was like, I've got to get out of here. The whole point of that story
is a bad scene.
I was like, I got to quit this job. I got to get out of here. And like, this can't be what my future is. This is all wrong.
And please tell me Lori did go on to make a writing career and
I think Lori actually stayed and made is a millionaire.
Right. Stayed in advertising. Is Tony okay? Do we know?
Tony actually did have some success later. Yeah. We were very happy about Tony. Yeah. They were so nice. But also, when you're working for wrestling promoters, you think, well, that's as bad as it can get. And then you get a job with boxing promoters and you're like, oh, this is much more disgusting somehow, like almost magically.
Is it because it's real and it's not the theater version?
I mean, in wrestling, obviously there's a lot of exploitation of people and, people break their bodies. But in boxing, like people are like brain damaged.
Right.
And I think just in general, they're in the business of just bodies come in and bodies come out. We don't care. And we're always trying to trick those bodies into thinking that we should get 90% of their money.
Yikes.
So I was like, I need to sort of take a little more control of my life. And I moved to LA in 2003.
Okay.
And then, I did screenwriting for a chunk of time. And I found, I think UCB maybe 2008 or 9. I don't quite remember. But at that point, I was working regularly as a screenwriter, mostly open writing assignments for films and stuff like that. And my girlfriend had taken a class. And I went to see her class show. And it was terrible. But my reaction was like, I can do this. I think that happens sometimes.
Sure.
With improv. Like, I don't think that happens with clown. Because I think when you see a bad clown show, you're just like, I never want to.
Get me away
from this. Yeah. I never want to be in this neighborhood again. But I think with improv, because there's like more of a sweetness to it, you're like, oh, I can do this.
And it's a little more recognizable.
Yeah.
It's humans having conversations.
It's scenes. It's interactions. And I had a rude awakening very quickly because then I started going, she had to go see shows. And at the time, you could go to Herald Night, but if Herald Night sold out, you could go see The Smokes. So then I saw that show, and I'm like, I can't do that. I was like,
there's a continuum here.
Oh, wait, hold on. This is what it is?
Yeah.
And I was really blown away. I can remember there was a moment where Brian Gallivan was on stage and someone came in and they just poured out like a bunch of maybe Chris Kula or somebody. They're like, this happened, this happened, this happened. And then Brian Gallivan just kind of listened and he waited and he goes, okay. And it got the biggest laugh. I was like, he didn't even do anything. All he said was okay.
Right.
And then, and that was sort of, he's amazing.
He's incredible, yeah.
But you're like, oh my God, this surgeon's up there. He's not, no way. And so then I became obsessed with watching them. And then I wanted to be like, well, I want to be good like that. But honestly, at the time where I was mentally, I just couldn't get my writer couldn't get out of the way. I was like, I write professionally, I'm getting paid, like my ego.
Yeah.
And so, I was going in, I was writing ahead in scenes, like I wasn't present. I was trying to be the funniest like everything.
I know where this scene goes. I know how I can be funny in this.
Yeah. Like walking in when a scene needs support, but instead being like, I think I can draw all the focus because I'm going to do this funnier thing.
Yeah.
And I spent a long time there. And then this is where the story gets a little sad.
Okay.
Just warning the audience, trigger warning. Then my partner, Kira, she got sick. She got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. It was like this thing. She was only at the time, 33 years old. And, then life was completely capsized. Yeah. And I still did a bunch of improv and stuff just to sort of stay sane.
Just to show her how funny you were.
She was bad at improv. So I was like, see, I'm doing this thing that you quit.
Yeah.
And I was so then it became more this thing where, because I was the primary caretaker, her family was great. And her mom would come over a couple days a week. And then I would go out and do shows with my team, Cat Bath. Little note on Cat Bath that always made me laugh. We had this... We couldn't figure out a name for this team, and someone had suggested Cat Bath, and this guy Justin on the team was like, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. It has to be that. And since none of us cared enough, we didn't like anything else, we're like, okay, I guess it's Cat Bath. Justin quits the team 3 days later. It's such a classic.
You know, sometimes angel messengers come into your life for a singular purpose and then they vanish, leaving not a trace.
Yeah.
But the gift remains.
Yeah, the gift remains of this name.
I love the name.
Yeah, and it was fun, but it was so funny that we're like, I guess like Justin feels so strongly about this, but I guess he didn't feel strongly about improv.
Right. He drops a smoke bomb on the floor, turns into a dove, and flies away. Yeah.
So I was doing this, and then, you know, it was like just one of those things where like from the diagnosis to the end was just like nothing but bad news, nothing but bad luck. You know, we moved to Houston for a while to get like experimental treatments. It was just like just falling down this hill for 2 years. And she eventually passes. And I take about, I guess, 4 or 5 months to try to just like collect myself, and then trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. And I'm like, well, let me go at least do comedy again. And the thing about, like I mentioned, catastrophic failure, or which I consider this like not a failure on my part, but this sort of thing that shifts your reality. I started taking classes at IO, and I was just a different animal. Like I just didn't give a shit in the way that, like, to be honest, like to the point where I had to learn to give a shit a little bit more, as you know what I'm talking about? Like I would just go up there. I'm like, what do I care if a scene fails? I don't care. Like,
right.
I
just watched someone die.
I just watched someone die. I was there, like in the bed next to them.
Doesn't matter. Who cares if I'm the teacher or the doctor in this scene?
Right. Yeah. And also, it made me more generous because I would just be out there, and it wasn't like I need to get this thing for myself. It's like, yeah, let's just see what happens. Like there was no desperation for validation. There was nothing.
You had gone through an ego death without knowing it, or a partial ego death.
Honestly, you know, I wouldn't recommend it. But I feel like when I talk about it, like I got a complete, you know, when you system reset, like on a computer, and like everything's gone except just the operating system.
Right.
Like that's how I felt. You know, I was like, whatever I was carrying around, whatever stuff I had to prove.
File not found. Yeah.
And that's when I met this guy named Juzo Yoshida.
Yeah.
Who's so funny. Like probably one of the most naturally funny people. But boy, you want to talk about someone who was a wrecking ball. He was in class, and he'd go up on stage, and he would like sabotage every scene in a way that it was the funniest scene of the day. And so,
but at the expense of the other players,
and at the expense of the length of this, like, something would happen within the first 30 seconds that he would just like make a hard pivot left or right, or just go into business for himself. And it would be the thing you laughed at the most. And then the scene would completely fall apart, and they would, you know, the next minute or so, still funny, but like, it was like more like, how do we salvage this?
Yeah.
He'd been kicked off a Herald team at IO for sort of, I saw the show that I'm pretty sure is why, and he just decided in that show he was going to keep coming in as disgraced baseball player Jose Canseco every scene. And he kept going, I'm Jose Canseco. And it was like tears running down your face, but you could see the frustration. Like it was like, for what IO was selling, this wasn't helpful.
Sure. Yeah, you're laughing for the wrong reasons. Wrong meaning like there's like a shared agreement among everybody who's taking classes and on Herald teams at IO that they are all in pursuit of this group project, teamwork. We're going to build a reality together. The reality is going to make sense. And then within that, we're going to find themes and relationships and blah, blah, blah. And he is demolishing that.
It to the delight of an audience, but it's unsustainable.
Right.
But that's kind of the first time I started thinking to myself, I'm like, but there's this laugh there. Like there is this moment. And I would say generally how I look at things even now is, if you see a big laugh, if like the audience has this sort of explosion of joy, and it doesn't come from a place of hate or cruelty or exclusion, like it's none of these things, like, because we've seen that, right? Both of us, where it's just like, oh, this is like a Kill Tony laugh. This makes me sad. Then we kind of should explore it. Like, well, why did that happen? Like, we did get the reaction we wanted. Like, is there something to learn from this? Is there value in this that maybe we overlook because we're like, but we agreed to this other thing, which I think is what clown is.
Right. it's almost like you're breaking expectation in a meta way.
Yeah.
Like improv, the laughs come because expectations are broken, because you expect the doctor to give you a sensitive diagnosis and then he has bad bedside manner. And oh, that's funny because it breaks the expectation. Comedy. You're breaking expectation on a larger
You're exposing
framework.
the show.
Yes. You're
like,
taking the legs out of what, sorry.
No, but you're totally right. It's like what happens there is we understand that Juzo, the person, is this sort of X factor on the stage that is courting chaos, and that the team is both doing the scenes but also having opinions as themselves. And we as the audience know we are also laughing at something that exists outside of what we are supposed to expect. So now we see each other. Like everybody sees each other in that moment. And it just happened right at that time because I was doing so much improv. It was one of those things too where like I said, my life had been like destroyed.
Yeah.
So I was just out every night. I was like, what else do I have to do? And I was starting to do like just shows with like 10 different indie teams. Like, do you remember this in the golden age when it was like 9 shows a night and like you could just play, and if you just got on a bunch of teams and then you just submitted a bunch of times
and you just go sometimes like a couple different things in one night.
Yeah.
Like going from where I guess Crash Bar was like on Tuesdays, Room 101 was Wednesdays. TNT was also Tuesday. Yeah.
So this is that right after the Clubhouse opened when there was that super explosion, right? So then it was like 7 nights a week.
Upstairs, downstairs. Yeah.
And also like at Artworks, or someone would rent a space at the Complex.
Yeah.
You know, you had 2 stages backstage at I.O. So I was just trying to get up as much as I could. And as I'm sort of like becoming friends with Juzo, and also like I was always volunteering to go up with him in class because I'm like, well, he's the funniest guy in class. I want to be in that scene. Trying to like figure it out. Like figure out, well, how do we do this? I did see this group called Wet the Hippo, which was the flagship little show of the Idiot Workshop. Before the Idiot Workshop was what it is now, which is fairly large, and they have multiple teachers and run like a full slate of classes. This was when John Gilkey, who started the Idiot Workshop, was just kind of trying to figure out what he was doing. And Natalie Palomides was in this group. Alex Trujillo Jones, who's now the Gazillionaire and Absinthe, and like a bunch of really talented people. And they would go into these indie shows doing idiot work, which is essentially clown. Yeah. And it would be one of two things. Either they'd go up and they'd be so much funnier because now they have all these tricks. Like they're completely no fourth wall. They're doing absolute nonsense. Or they would eat shit in a way that like made you like want to crawl out of your skin. Yeah. And the shows where they ate shit, they had more fun. Like they would be like, not in that way too of like defensive fun. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like we've seen that team. It's like, I don't even give a shit. I'm just up here.
The kid who on his way out the door of class to get sent to the principal's office is like, I don't care, but his face is turning red and you know he cares.
Yes. Yeah. And like, so it was like they were genuinely like, we're like, oh my God, we're trying these dumb things and the audience doesn't like it. And like, we're not even mad at that. Like we know. And in a way that felt inclusive. I couldn't explain it. But either way, it was the only thing I would think about when I left.
That's where it loses me in the narrative of like what clown is and what it can be. That's the part of the Venn diagram that does not overlap with me. My empathy for performers eating shit is so like when you described like wanting to crawl out of your skin, like that part is not fun for me. And
I should say too, I think the reason that improv is always going to be like traditional improv, because I think clown is mostly improvised too, is I do feel like it's more welcoming, and not only are the players more protected on stage in terms of like we have this structure, we have this shorthand, I think the audience is more protected. Mm-hmm. Those moments are so much more easily absorbed, right? Like someone is sort of bombing, wipe the scene. Yeah. A better player comes in, offers a solution. Whereas in the clown stuff, often when we court that kind of failure, we're like, let's get this fire going. Let's
see what happens if I burn alive.
Yeah, like, or like, let's throw more logs on.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then not in a way where we want to fail, but we're like, let's keep going down this road, desperately trying to get it to work, knowing that probably the outcome is more failure. And I don't think that's for everybody.
Yeah.
I just don't think it is. I think, like you said, like a truly empathetic soul, or like, I definitely have seen people in an audience where they're just like, oh, I don't want to feel this much. Like I want the contract between audience and performer to be honored.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, and I know too, like it's so hard because like if you see a bad improv show, you might be like, oh, that was a tough night. You see a bad clown show. Like I've talked to people and they're like, somebody sat in my lap. They were in a diaper. It's like, because they're not good at executing their craft. It's more impactful in the worst way.
I want to like stick here for a second because it's a good time to like explore this with you. It is so fascinating to me. Like I've told Ryan this before off pod that the best live show I've ever seen in my life was a clown show. It was the first time I saw Stamptown. It was so good and so impactful that I was bawling at the end. And I like ran up to Zach on stage and was like, I don't know if you remember me. He was like, of course. I was like crying. I was like, this is the most mind-blowing comedy I've ever seen. It changed my life. And I left that show being like, I guess I have to like study clown. I have to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then my least favorite live performance that I've ever seen was the second time I saw Stamptown. It was like a year or two later, and I almost walked out. I was getting so aggravated at the way the audience was being treated. And it felt violating to me. It was like, it was shortly after COVID had cleared, and there was a bit like you were in this show and there was a bit that you and someone else were doing of like sticking your fingers in audience members' mouths. And I was like, this feels
I vaguely was that at the roof of the
It was for the Netflix as a joke fest. It was in that whatever that weird theater is that they built for that rock musical.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? And it's like a really deep back theater, like, I can't think of what it's called. It's in Hollywood. You were great in the show. I loved your character. I loved the bit. It was like a janitor bit. Like every time like you come on as the janitor.
Albert the janitor, yeah.
It was great. And it's like like everyone freezes and this like love song plays and you like fantasize and you like it turns into your love fantasies. When it started breaking into love fantasies with the audience and like putting fingers in their mouths, I was like, aside from the potential COVID of this, while we're all like disease wary, it just felt so violating to me to like have someone put a finger in someone's mouth. And I was like, oh my God. And I was in the back of the room. This is like people in the front row, but my empathy for them was so like wrenched that I was like, am I even okay with being here? It was like that weird to me.
I totally understand. And also there's this thing, and it's something that like it's a math we're still, I think, trying to figure out sometimes, where also from perspective, right? Like you're in the back of this room and so you don't know the relationship I have with these, like, and you don't know how they're looking. Like there's all these like ways that we sort of gain consent from people that aren't like, is this okay? And this and that.
Right.
But that's not to say also that sometimes like in the pursuit of like, we're trying to find it, that we're like, oh, that was a bad night for us.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so that's not to say like we get it right all the time. But yeah, like, and that bit, it's so funny. That bit became like my staple bit in Edinburgh last year. You know, I did it all through the Pleasance Grand shows and this and that, and became like, and it even grew more that like when I'd come out, people would like cheer for like 2 minutes, hoping I'd come back. And then I would do this, like I would put my fingers in people's mouths. Like I was this ghoul. But yeah, like I had that experience too, coming up when Juzo and I eventually became a team called Jetso. And one of our big tricks was always like pulling audience members into the show, always pulling them in, having them play characters, having them play dead bodies on the ground and this and that. And like, there were definitely like these moments where I was like, oh, like I'm not being safe enough. So like the result wasn't like hugely problematic, but it spoke to a problem of like, oh, you just can't grab someone's wrist and like pull them into the into the show, because some bad habits I think we formed because we were doing so much stuff at the clubhouse, and you'd look at the front row and it's literally people that you're on indie teams
It's
with.
all your friends. Yeah.
And then you'd go somewhere else and you were like, oh, wait a minute. Like, how do we like make this audience know that like, even though we're all courting chaos together, even though like things are going crazy, that they have full agents, like they're not trapped, they're not hostages in our show.
Yeah.
And it's like the thing about playing with an audience as opposed to just your ensemble mates is like no pre-show conversation, no pre-existing relationship.
Right. No years of history where you know kind of what their boundaries are.
You have no idea what they walked in with.
Right.
And so trying to find ways to push as far as you can, knowing that there is a line where the audience member could feel like, well, if I don't participate, then I'm late. Like, I don't want to hurt the show.
That's what I want to address is like, there is a power dynamic at play that's not like explicitly said or addressed, where the same as like, you know, the thing about like teachers dating students and whatever, it's like you never want to accidentally exploit like someone's internalized sense of like what they're supposed to do or what they have to do or whatever. And I feel like if you are an audience member sitting in a theater and someone from the show grabs your hand, you feel like you can't say no because everyone's watching you and there's like this expectation that you have to get up.
Right.
And I think if someone in that moment says like, no, I don't want to, they feel like humiliated, like they've ruined the show, or like, and especially if they're an introvert or whatever. So I feel like there is this line for me personally, like my own like values or whatever are like, I will never force participation on someone. And I'm using the word force, like even extending a hand and inviting them on stage feels like I'm forcing them because the power dynamic is there and they don't have their regular agency that they would if you asked them before the show, would you like to participate?
At the bare minimum, it's certainly coercion.
Yeah.
At the bare minimum, it's certain. And, you know, it's funny because like, for me, like that exact example, because you're always trying to figure it out. Like I'm working on a bit now where when people come up on stage with me, I'm playing like the world's smartest comic. I'm doing it at Stamptown. I'm working on a work in progress that I end up dressing them like me, and they're in the show quite a while, right? Like, so even that, just like you're going to be in the show a while.
Yeah, that is tough.
So what I've been trying to do, and this is like not just recently, it's like one of the things I try to do is sometimes I'll create a moment where I'll just like put my hand down and I'll like do something else, or I'll look at the audience and like I'll see if they'll grab it. But like I do feel like what you're talking about, like if I go, come to the stage or the show is ruined, like and these are the things that we're like, because we are courting this idea of like this is destabilized, this is disruptive. Mm-hmm. We're trying to weigh that against too. There was a time where the people who came to these shows, they were like hardcore, like they came because they heard about, like it wasn't popular. So if they were coming to clown shows, it's because they'd seen other clown shows.
Yeah.
And now that's not as true anymore, that people are just like, oh, I heard about this thing. They have no idea what it is. So when they walk into the venue, they don't know that there's a bunch of audience interaction.
Right.
And yeah, like, so like we don't want it to feel like there isn't a sense of risk, but we certainly don't want there to be a sense of danger.
Yeah. And I think that's what I feel now. I'm like squeamish about going to clown shows now because I can
understand that.
What if I'm interacted with in that way? Like, I don't want to be interacted with in that way, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and you'll notice, like, even at the top of our show, when we entered from the back of the room and you said, like, really make a meal out of the entrance and really find moments where you can connect with the audience and whatever, you were fully, like, doing, like, prop bits with them and stuff. And I, like, just internally, like, made an agreement with myself, like, I will not do anything like so. The most I did was look at them or like, you know, kind of, and that's why I kind of adopted this character of being really timid. I would like touch the seat next to them and kind of like tacitly like ask permission to sit there and whatever, and that I kind of leaned into that character. But yeah, I think I have like a real it like ethically grates on me to like put an audience in an uncomfortable position. And then that's another thing I wanted to ask you about, just in general with clown. Like, it feels like it's sort of in this, and I don't know a ton about the history of clown, but it feels like in this modern era of clown, okay, let me break this into two things. Something I love about what you all do is isolating a single pattern or a single bit or a single relationship dynamic and heightening it so far beyond where improv ever goes. It's like we do 3 beats of heightening and we're in space and we edit and you never see it again, you know?
Right.
But it's like heightening it beyond breaking the fourth wall, heightening it to like, well, now how does this manifest physically? Now how does this manifest in sounds? What if we bring it back as ourselves and not the character? You're breaking so many walls down with a comedic idea. It's so thrilling. What I observe is that it feels like in the pursuit of heightening so far, like who can go the farthest, it feels like there's almost like a pissing contest sometimes where it pushes bits past where it's like everything becomes genocide, rape, bleeding out of your mouth, I'm playing a butthole. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It goes like super offensive or super gross out because it's trying to heighten all the way to the top of the hockey stick. And my question mark when I watch shows like that is, why couldn't we have like heightened to like just under that stuff? But why do we have to keep going to fisting and fucking horses and
right.
You know what I mean? Like, do you perceive that from the inside that there's almost this like internal dare within yourselves and each other of like challenging yourself to kind of like, you know, okay, well, Natalie came out naked and bleeding, so now what can I do that's braver than that? And how can I put myself on the line further? Is there
just to clarify, are you saying like in one single show, or are you saying culturally, like this one show happened?
Clown community, like it feels like that's kind of an internal like driving force is like, did you hear about the show where so and so like ate someone's ass? Now I'm gonna shit on stage. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, it's a question that kind of hits a couple points, which I think if you look at the shows that are most celebrated, that's not where they end up landing.
Okay.
Like if you look at Weir, it's talking about Natalie, like that's just probably the best modern clown show of the modern era, right? And it takes ideas and heightens, and then maybe Julia Masley's show and Courtney Peroso's show, like they go really far.
Yeah.
And I think it's like that old adage of bad tattoos. Like it's part of like this process of creating art is like I talked about when I was in some early days of working with Jetso, my own improv, like I'm trying to figure out how far I can go. And in that process, also, like, how can I be mindful of this audience, but also explore that, like, how do I take audiences in general into deeper water in a way that's pleasing for them? And I think I do see a lot of younger clowns and like they're trying to figure out how to stand out. And they're trying to figure out how to be the most dangerous. And, you know, in improv, I guess it would be, what is it? Cop, doctor, president. Like it's this thing, but except now we're talking about like physical offers and, you know, taking your clothes off and things like that. I have someone I mentor who does a show in the alley behind the clubhouse. These are shows so they ended up getting kicked out of the clubhouse rightfully because they made a mess.
Okay.
And so they started doing shows.
They made like a physical mess that they didn't clean up. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
I think they tried. But it's not
trying
space. They tried.
Clean is such a funny sentence.
There was just as a flashback story years ago. I'll protect the names, but there's a group called Funk Shuffle.
Yeah.
And they asked a clown to come in, a friend of mine, and they were like, we want you to go for it. We want you just to go for it. And then this person came in and just like sprayed fake blood everywhere. Like, and then they were furious. And then she was like, well, when someone says to you, like, you have to, like, we want you to burn the place down.
Right.
And then they're mad. They're like, you made a mess. Like,
right. Yeah. Where is the line?
But it was like, but also. By the way, that's the sister podcast I'm starting is But Also.
But Also.
So they run these shows, and these shows are not my taste, and they are gross. There's like, I think someone pooped in a vase once.
Sounds on brand for what I'm talking about.
I know for a fact that they did a show that knew this was going to happen, but Oscar, Julia, who run these shows, Oscar ate a bunch of beets, and then knowing that he was going to vomit in the show, and he wanted it to be red like Christmas beets, like Christmas red, and like, and talking to you, this is not my thing. Like, I don't like it. I will say, like 50 people show up at this back alley to watch this absolute, I want to say abortion of a show, like this absolute. And so there's two things. One, I think sometimes in the early part of giving bad tattoos, there are clowns that just don't have the tools to understand how to build things. And the same is like Cop, Doctor, President. Like they have to kind of like, they just keep going to the things that are obvious when, if you think about the show we did, like the right answers are not the obvious ones. They are a way that this pattern grows into something that the audience doesn't expect. And just to be clear, the reason we don't do more stuff, the reason we don't wipe and start over is because if we're building a show with an audience, we want to have a limited vocabulary.
Yeah.
Because now they have to remember the vocabulary and they have to play along with us. So if we take more of a Dostoevsky approach and it's this rich tapestry of possibility, we can't ask an audience to remember what Craig Kakowski will remember. We can only ask them to remember very simple things so that they're like, oh, I see how this is all connected and they're surprising me, but also I'm included in the play. So that's the purpose of it, is since we're more focused on things like their participation and, getting them to love us and giving them this spectrum of things to experience, we have to limit the ideas or it's going to become an intellectual exercise.
For part 2 of this episode, go to yesalso.supercast.com. If you like this podcast and you want double the content, head over to yesalso.supercast.com and subscribe. You can also help us out for free by subscribing to us on YouTube and talking us up to your improv communities. If you have a question that you'd like us to answer in one of our Q&A episodes, or a topic that you think would make a great bonus episode, put it in a 5-star review. If you're a theater who would like to host us for a live recording and improv show, let us know at yesalsopod@gmail.com. A very special thanks to our producer, Ryan Rosenberg, audio and video editor, Brian Kessler, and Britt Faye, who does our marketing. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. No, we won't, Suzi. That's not how podcasts work. They won't even see us. They will listen to us. So it's actually the opposite of both things you said. Thanks for listening, and you will listen to us next week. Maybe. We don't know.